Afternoon, everybody. Brad Means alongside Jenny Montgomery here, continuing to cover the breaking news that happened this morning at Josey High School, a shooting in the school cafeteria. We're going to get an update on that investigation in a moment.
We are expecting to hear from several leaders in the community, not just from the school board, but law enforcement too.
Superintendent Kenneth Bradshaw now.
To share with our families and community regarding the incident that occurred at TW Josey Comprehensive High School that also impacted Murphy Middle School. I'm joined by the Richmond County Sheriff's Department and the Marshal's Office, as well as our local law enforcement, the Richmond County School System School Safety Department, along our board members. We're here to provide some details about what occurred today. However, I want to start by thanking the local law enforcement for responding so quickly to our school shooting. They jumped into action in addition to the faculty and staff to ensure the safety and security of our students. Before turning over this press conference to the Sheriff's Department, I want to share the importance of parents and guardians communicating with their children about this unfortunate incident that impacted two schools. We rely on parents and guardians to guide their children in keeping prohibited items out of our schools. Please have conversations with your children about solving problems without violence. Inspect their belongings when they come to school and be engaged with your children and with our school as we continue to provide a safe and sound learning environment. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Sheriff Roundtree with the Richmond County Sheriff's Office.
Thank you, Dr. Bradshaw. I must first say that this is still a very active investigation. I will recap the events of today. I won't be able to get into a lot of details about where we are, but I will try to fill in some of the gaps of how we started and where we stand today. At approximately 11:15 this morning, our dispatcher received calls of shots fired at TW Josey High School. A school resource officer was on the scene. That information was in fact confirmed that an individual had been shot inside the school at TW Josey. At that time, Richmond County Sheriff's Office, along with the Board of Education, and all other local law enforcement who are adjacent to our channel, the call was put out and all available units responded to the scene to secure the area until we can get there and do an active response. Once we arrived on the scene, along with our tactical units and other additional units, the school had been placed on lockdown. We then did a methodical search of each and every classroom as we cleared the building. In the classroom, the students and teachers were escorted out into a designated reunification area until we can get the entire school completed. Once we searched every school classroom and secured all personnel, at that time, we started working in active crime scene. Throughout the course of the investigation, we were able to identify a juvenile suspect. We cannot identify his name. He is not in custody. He is a juvenile. We do have his identity. We have drawing up juvenile paperwork. We're in the process of going through a Superior Court judge to have that paperwork upgraded to Superior Court and trying to locate that juvenile. So right now, we're actively trying to seek that individual. I will tell you, again, he is known to the students, he is known to the school, so I would encourage if any family members or the individuals housing this individual, please call the Sheriff's Office and turn this individual in. This is a very tragic situation that scared a lot of people in this community, and we want to resolve this issue. We are grateful to the fact that no other students or faculty were injured in this incident. It shows approximately 2 months ago, we did an active shooter drill at another school, vacant school, using the resources of the Richmond County Sheriff's Office, the Marshal's Office, the Board of Education, and some federal and state agencies in case an incident of this magnitude happened. I think that training was invaluable in the timing. All units, again, converged onto the school. We coordinated our efforts. We all received the same training. We were all on the same page. Everyone went through their assignments as indicated. Again, one of the most important parts of an incident of this nature, especially one involving emergency or an active shooter situation, is the response thereafter. At that time, like I said, all parents, we do encourage you to become familiar with the reunification process of an emergency at your child's school. We did have parents who arrived at the scene. We're aware, we're sympathetic to their calls, but of course, with this being an active scene, all that does is hinder our investigation or our efforts to either contain the shooter or get the kids to safety. So we do encourage parents to be familiar with the process, and that way we can unify your students to you as quickly as possible and to make the scene safe as possible. Again, like I said, at this time, this is still a very active investigation. I do, again, would like to thank the cooperation of all agencies involved throughout Richmond County. Anytime you have an incident of this nature, this is an all hands on deck. This is not an ego, this is not a jurisdictional issue. This is the public safety issue that involves our most precious commodity, which is the children of this community. And I think that each individual and each individual agency did a stellar job, and they are to be commended for their efforts. Again, like I said, once that individual was taken into custody, we'll be able to release more information through our PIO office once the person is taken into custody and we file the proper paperwork. But at the time, like I said, he is a juvenile, so we can't release any further at this time. I've talked to Dr. Bradshaw. We will open the floor for a few questions. Again, we can't be specific about certain incidents, but we will be able to take questions either from the sheriff's office or from the school board. Yes.
This question is for you, Sheriff, or the superintendent. What's the status of Josey's metal detectors? I know it was a big deal when you all got them. Were they working this morning when students came to school? How did this gun get inside?
I defer that to the school board.
Yes, ma'am. Metal detectors, it's been a topic for quite some time. We don't have metal detectors in our schools at this point. However, it's up for discussion. This is an unfortunate incident. Not quite sure if a metal detector would have detected this issue. However, it's a topic that's going to be ongoing.
So Josey has no metal detectors right now, no search process at this point.
Right now, the search process will be making sure that our parents engage their students, making sure that we don't bring prohibited items to school. Right now, this is still an ongoing topic. It's up for discussion whether or not we pursue that, the logistics of it, but safety and security is our primary responsibility for our students.
Y'all talk about the two schools that were affected in this incident. Is that individual that y'all are seeking in those boundaries or out somewhere in the community?
The subject we're seeking for is a student or was enrolled at TW Josey, so he has a local tie. We have searched all residents that we know known to this subject. That's why I put out a plea because this is a juvenile. He doesn't have the resources to flee the country or flee the state. So if he's being harbored by a family, friend, or a relative. And we encourage them again. We're glad that this did not result in a serious injury or loss of life, but we do want to resolve this issue and bring it to conclusion. So that individual, we really need to have him either turn himself in or a family member surrender him to law enforcement so we can bring an end to this very tragic day. Yes, sir.
Two quick questions. One, the initial information received was that the victim was injured in their hand. Is that accurate? And two, do you know how soon after the incident the suspect left the school?
According to our investigation, the subject injury to his hand. That is correct. It was some reports that the subject had fled the scene, but our protocol and active shooter, until we confirm that, we present the scene as an active shooter. The school went right into their lockdown mode. Teachers secured their classrooms. When we got there, the scene was not chaotic at all. Everyone had followed protocol, which made our job 10 times easier as going methodically to do the search. But anytime we have a shooting inside a school, we treat that as an active shooter until we can confirm that that is no longer the case, that the subject is in custody. So that's why we follow that protocol. I'm taking it from the media. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great. Any plans on letting students back into Josey and Murphy tomorrow, or if the suspect is still out, do you plan on closing school? What's the plan moving forward?
Immediately following this meeting, we will decide upon whether we reopen both schools tomorrow. So that decision is forthcoming.
And then, are y'all attributing any of this to gang violence right now, or?
You talking incident from today? Not at this point, we know, because we haven't had the subject in custody yet. We have interviewed the victim. We know that there was an altercation prior to the shooting. We haven't yet confirmed what led up to that. That's why that will be part of the investigation, and that's why we want to get this subject in custody as quickly as possible to see if there's any ongoing threats or any situations that may that need to be addressed further. And if that's the case, in coordination with the school board, we would pass that on to them and provide them with any resources if we feel there is a potential threat moving forward. At this point, we can't say that until, that's why we want to bring the subject into custody as quickly as possible.
How long after the investigation, if it's still ongoing, will y'all put out some sort of identification for people to be on the lookout?
Well, again, we're still looking for a juvenile, and in order to be able to release that, again, right now, our investigators are in the process of speaking through the Superior Court system to get this case moved to the Superior Court. Once that, and we follow the laws, and we'll be able to put out information that we haven't brought them into custody within a short period of time. But again, because he's a juvenile, we do have to protect his identity and certain rights up until that point. But at the moment, we feel that we can elicit the public's help in locating the subject. We will definitely put something out.
Can we help by sharing any known locations of this particular suspect, where he lives, hangs out, anything like that?
Right now, again, and you know all how fast social media is. Legally, we can't identify, but individuals know who this individual is because they identified him to law enforcement. We were able to confirm that. So we do encourage people who know of this individual and know his information to encourage him or his parents to turn himself in. Again, we know how powerful social media is, but we still have to follow the legal aspects of this case as a criminal investigation. So right now, like I said, we're encouraging everyone to pay attention to this news report. Our primary concern right now is that there was no loss of life and no other teachers or students were injured during this incident. That is our focus. We have seen on the national narrative that unfortunately that has not been the case so many tragic times. But I think the cooperation and the quick response and the procedures that we follow here today, and I'm not exaggerating, I truly think it saved lives today. Yes, sir.
Has the weapon that was used in the incident been recovered?
I can't speak to that at this point.
Okay.
How many school resource officers were at Josey at the time of the incident? You said they were already on the scene.
We have school resource officers that are housed at the school daily. So the one officer that was scheduled to be there was there, but other officers quickly arrived on scene.
In the back.
I've heard with students and parents who say they don't feel comfortable sending their kids back to school. Can you address that and what's going to be done in the days to follow if they do return?
Yes, ma'am. That's difficult on families when an incident like this occurs. However, we're going to have counselors at the schools tomorrow or whenever we reopen the school for our students to ensure that they feel safe and comfortable upon return. Again, we're just happy that we didn't lose anyone today. However, our staff and students may be traumatized, so it's going to take some time to heal. But our primary goal is to provide students with academic rigor, and we can't get to that unless they feel like they're in a comfortable, safe learning environment.
We'll take one more question if you have it. Yes.
We've talked about the precautions for all Richmond County school system schools that were taken today and moving forward. Josey specifically, though, we've had a number of incidents at this school in particular, and just remembering the homecoming situation that was almost a year ago. I believe it was back last September, October. Just curious if there's any sort of precautions for this school in particular that might be taken.
I'm going to be presumptuous and take this because I was there during those incidents you were talking about. During those incidents, we were in constant communication with the school board, not just Dr. Bradshaw and his leadership team, but the school board, public safety agency identifying potential threats. And that's why the sheriff's office augmented security to some of these schools based on the information that we got. So that communication is key. That communication is key to any incident moving forward. It's key to those incidents that's happened last term, and it's key to what happened today. So We're proud of that communication. We're always going to share that information. And again, it's all about threat assessment. It's about threat assessment because we know the schools are just an extension of our neighborhood. So what goes on to the neighborhood carry on into our schools. So that relationship and that partnership is key, and we're going to continue to do that. We're not going to shy away from it. If we see a potential threat, we're going to identify it and notify them. If they have one, vice versa is going to be the same. So it is truly a partnership. It's a collaboration with that. And again, I think, we focus on the incidents that we see and that has occurred, but there's so many incidents that have been thwarted because of that communication that you never hear about. And we take pride in those incidents that you never hear about. So thank y'all again from Dave. Dr. Brash, I don't know if you have anything else, but.
Thank you so much for coming in. We'll keep the media informed regarding the reopening of the school. And again, we need everyone in the community to continue to support the Richmond County school system. Thank you.
Richmond County Board of Education Superintendent Kenneth Bradshaw, flanked by the Sheriff of Augusta, Georgia, Richard Roundtree, also other law enforcement, Marshal Ramon Lampkin at that news conference, Jenny, BOE Police Chief Mantrell Wilson, the school board president, Charlie Walker, the vice president, Sean DeGriffin, a show of unity on a day of confusion, a morning that just sort of blew up down at Josey High School when all of a sudden in the school cafeteria, an argument led to a shooting.
And of course, this news conference was certainly what the superintendent wanted, to reassure the parents, to reassure the community that they are all over it. He was quick to thank law enforcement for their rapid response. And he also took a moment to encourage parents to talk to your kids, talk to your kids about conflict and how you resolve problems, and that guns aren't a way to solve a problem.
Absolutely. I hope that message resonates with households all over the CSRA, those watching now and those who you talk to after you turn the TV off. What struck me is the sheriff said, we've just gone through active shooter training a couple of weeks ago to prepare for something like this. Law enforcement is ready. They run toward the trouble. But as you mentioned, when it comes to the ultimate enforcer, that's you, mom and dad, so says the sheriff, so says the superintendent. That's you, grandparents, that's you, caregivers. Ultimately, in fact, they asked about metal detectors. That responsibility went back on mom and dad for keeping guns out of schools.
Yeah. It is a community effort, and it really starts in the home, and that is the message that came from this news conference, along with reassuring people in the community, because the school is an extension of the community. The kids in the school are part of the community.
You talk about community, 59 years old, T.W. Josey, a huge force in the greater Augusta area. A lot of pride among the green and gold, and I know they're ready to put this behind them, but not before the investigation is complete. We heard what we already knew, which is that the incident happened at 11:15 this morning. Two kids argued, one pulled a gun, they both ran away. The injured child hit in the hand. What we didn't know, Jenny, is they know the shooter's name.
Yeah, they know who the shooter is, but because he is a minor, they can't release the name until it gets cleared by a Superior Court judge. And law enforcement is in the process of doing that right now, because of course the community can help locate this suspect if they know who they are, looking for. But because of the age, they can't. Law enforcement can't release that name just yet.
Yeah, let me just say this. We know how big social media is. Hey, kids, if you're on your phone right now and you're watching this and you know who did that, you know who pulled that trigger, turn them in. And certainly if the shooter himself is watching, turn yourself in. Save law enforcement some trouble. They know who you are. They're going to find you. Our coverage of this shooting, thank goodness it wasn't a major one, but one is one too many.
Yeah.
A shooting at T.W. Josey High School is going to continue at the top of the hour.
We'll see you again right here on News Channel 6 at 4.